Okay, so I watched the Batman. I took my nephews to go see the Batman a couple of weeks ago, on the 12th. And when I watched Spider Man No Way Home and when I watched Endgame, I left those movies thinking very highly of those movies. I left the theater thinking very highly of them. You know, even Endgame, it was a 3 hour movie, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like I was in there for 2 hours. It felt like before I knew it, the movie was going by pretty quickly. But not in the way like I was bored and I was like falling asleep or something like that. It was more I wish it was longer type thing. But when I went to see the Batman, and I'm a huge Batman fan, let me say this. I don't read the comics. I'm not a comic guy. I'm a movie guy. And as far as the cinematic aspect of Batman, I'm a huge Batman fan. This movie wasn't the best Batman I've ever seen. Now I'm not a critic. I don't like to get into the details, the ticky tack nitpicky things that a lot of people when they do reviews. I'm not doing a review, but I did notice one thing while I was watching the movie. I played Telltale games. I played pretty much all of them. I think maybe there's one I didn't play. But when they put out the Ultimate Edition where they sold all their works in like one package before the company went under, I bought that. Even though I already bought the games, I bought the Ultimate package because there was like one or two that I didn't have. So I just bought the Ultimate package just so I could make sure I had everything. And I play those games. I'm currently going back to play them again because I haven't played them since I had my Xbox One, which was maybe a year or two ago. So I'm going back to play them. And one thing I noticed while I was watching the Batman is that I'm not going to say they took. I'm going to say that I believe Matt Reeves and whoever the producers, the creators, the writers, whatever, they borrowed very heavily from the Batman series, Telltale series, Batman Telltale game. They borrowed very heavily, where they portrayed Thomas Wayne as a supposed criminal. Um, it was very, very twisted. It was very for people that didn't play it. It was a very twisted take on Batman, and I felt like they borrowed heavily from it. I mean, even down to the way the Riddler works, feels like they borrowed extremely. Like it's like they took parts of the Riddler from the game and parts of Lady Arkham from the game and meshed it together as one with when they were creating their version of the Riddler. It felt like they were borrowing very heavily from the game. So, because I'm sitting here like right now and I'm playing the Batman series, and I'm like it's just rolling around in my head. Did they borrow it? So I looked it up just to see if anybody else had this thought, and I found a couple articles by Cracked and Screen Rant that was saying that they noticed the same thing, which I'm fine with. Like, I have no problem with drawing inspiration as long as you're not blatantly stealing things, from top to bottom, the whole shebang. Like, as long as you're not doing that, I don't really have a problem with it. But I don't know. This is why I don't think this is. I try not to say original too much, man, because most of the things that we see nowadays is borrowed from something is an offshoot of something else. It's mostly everything. Nothing is truly original anymore. But this thing, like my idea, because I try not to call myself an artist, man, because if you have to call yourself an artist, you're not one. But as a person that's an aspiring writer, I would have to say that if you have to take if your work isn't at least 75% you and maybe 20-25% somebody else, then I mean, I don't know. There's no point in doing it, but I get it. It's money. You want to make money. You want the easiest route to make the most money that you can make, which is fine. But I just didn't think they executed the story, I guess, as well as they could have. When I watched the Batman, I thought maybe there'll be more puzzles, there'll be more riddles, there'll be more something to make you think. Like when I was sitting there watching the movie with my nephews, the first puzzle came up. It was what does a liar do or something like what does a liar do when he's dead or something like that. And I sat there and I thought about it for like 10, 15 seconds, just thinking, like, what does he do? And I'm rolling around. I finally say, lie still. Like, because when you're dead, you lie still. And it kind of works on two fronts. So I nudged my nephew and I was like, the answer is lie still. And then they, so I was into it. I was really into it and I was feeling it. But there was just not, there were no more riddles. And if you have the Riddler in your movie, I'm thinking the whole movie is going to be a mind fuck on how, all right, these different puzzles to make you really think, make the audience think, along with Batman. But it was just, it didn't deliver what I was hoping for. And then at the end of the movie, I think the movie was supposed to portray Batman as the world's greatest detective. This was supposed to be a movie that was supposed to establish that, because I heard some people complain about the Nolan series and how it wasn't, he didn't have opportunities to detect. So they were saying that this was supposed to be like his detective movie. But even the Riddler said at the end of the movie, like, I gave you too much credit. You still didn't figure out what it is you were supposed to figure out. Like, I put all the pieces in front of you and hoped that you were able to put the puzzle together, and you couldn't. But then he went back and then he, looked a little deeper, which, if this is a true Batman detective movie, he should have figured that shit out before he even met the Riddler. Like, it should have already been pieced together. That's why I thought the movie was maybe a half hour too long. I felt like if they could have wrapped that shit up, maybe 2 hours and 20, 2 hours and 30 minutes, I think it would have been a lot better for me, not for anybody else, for me. I felt like if you wanted to portray Batman in that way, maybe you could have him figure out whatever it is you want him to figure out before he meets up with the Riddler. And then after he leaves the Riddler, instead of him taking another 20 minutes to figure out what the hell he needs to figure out, it could just go straight into the Riddler. Like, while he's talking to the Riddler, then you could show shit, hitting the fan. You could show the streets getting flooded, people getting shot. You could show all that while he's discussing this with the Riddler. It doesn't have to be a great reveal, but that's supposed to be the moment between him and the Riddler, where they have this epic monologue between each other, where the story is coming to its conclusion. But instead, it wasn't. The start of the conclusion came when this shit hit the fan, which the movie then goes on for like another 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Like, I'm like, all right, like, the movie is too long, bro. Like, they're dragging this shit out too long. So I don't know. This wasn't the greatest Batman movie to me. I remember watching The Dark Knight in theaters when I was how old was it came out in 2008. I was 20. I remember watching that movie when I was 20 years old, and I mean, it was phenomenal. I mean, and Heath Ledger's Joker is still, in my opinion, the greatest villain in a superhero movie I've ever seen. Like, I don't think anybody will ever beat a performance like that. Like, he nailed it. I don't think anybody's Joker will ever come close. I'm sorry. I think that he nailed it. I think he ruined that part from now on, because I don't think anybody will ever be able to give a performance like that. I mean, because it was incredible. But this movie wasn't better than The Dark Knight. They borrow heavily from Telltale series. I'm glad that other people are thinking about this as well, because while I was watching the movie, I'm like, this feels similar. Why does this feel like I've seen this somewhere? And it's because I played the game. I played the game a few years ago, and that's why I realized it. But again, I don't think the movie was bad. I think the movie was really good. I would say it was great if it was maybe a half hour shorter. If they could have been a little more efficient with the ending, I think that I would have liked it. I thought and the ending kind of fizzled for me. I'm like, that's the best you can do, is to is to flood the streets with maybe, I don't know. It just didn't feel like I thought when I saw the water, I'm like, all right, he's about to full on flood New York or flood Gotham. No, No. I mean, the worst that it got was people were in the water and it was electricity that could possibly kill them. Like, I'm like, oh, this is like, it was weak. The ending was so weak for me. That was supposed to be the climax. It was supposed to be boom. Like, it was supposed to put a cherry on the fucking movie, and it didn't. It didn't for me. But again, it was a good enough movie that I think I'll buy it, and it's a good enough movie that if they do come out with a sequel, which I'm pretty sure they will, I think this is crushing the box office, and I think people are giving it such glowing reviews that they're gonna come out with another one. Um, I'll go see it. I probably won't go see it on the first weekend, but I'll definitely go see it maybe second, third weekend. Maybe when the crowds aren't so packed or whatever. But that's it, man. I just spent 11 minutes talking about this shit, man. But that's it, man. I'm done.